how we use named ranges, how we copy paste as values, and that kind of thing. For those of you that are new to this stuff, it's really important you understand these concepts before we try and think harder. Okay, and I've put it into the more advanced formulas actually, is to use the classic VLOOKUP, bring in the condo. You'll notice it tells me formula, then it tells me the arguments that go into the formula, and it highlights the one I'm currently clicked on. So if I click A with X, and then if you ever decide you need that back, because it's actually super helpful, if you just click back into your formula, it doesn't matter whether it's in the cell again, like I said, or up here, and you click the question mark, and then you click again, then it's going to bring that menu back. It's going to bring, sorry, that helper pane back. And if you need even more than that, then you can come down and click the hyperlink here. It brings up the help, a more detailed help page documentation here on the right. And then if you still need even more than that, then you can actually go ahead and open it in a new window, and you get to the documentation here for all of the different formulas for spreadsheet. So we've got the VLOOKUP. We're looking up, searching for A inside the condo fees table here. I want to return to, and I'm going to say false. We're going to look at some other examples of VLOOKUPs later in this course, but for now it's going to tell me that the condo fees on this one are $140. And if I drag that down, then you'll see we've hit an error. So let me just delete those two at the bottom. And a few things to explore here. First of all, you can get a lot of information by looking at the type of error that it's given. So that's one thing I want to mention in this lesson, is the different error types. Now there's one showing not available. It's saying did not find the lookup value C in the table. If I double click, you'll see why, because it's moved that reference down as I've been doing my VLOOKUP. So if you look at the very first one, it was there. If I click the second one, it's moved that table down because we didn't specify it wasn't a locked table up here. We didn't lock that table. So it's a relative reference. So as my formula moves down, it moves all of the ranges, all of the references inside my formula with it. So what we actually need to go do is fix this one. So we'll come up here and we'll just hit F4, and it puts those dollar signs in front of the column references and the row references. And you can hit F4 again, and it will toggle between rows, columns, and nothing. But we want everything in this case. So F4 is the key. That's your friend. We're going to hit return. And then if I now drag down, that will now work for all of them. And so that's really important, is to understand that difference between an absolute reference like this one. Now this table is always locked here, and this C2 is relative. So when I drag this formula down, like if I click here, it's moved C2 all the way down to C5 because that was relative, but it's still locked that table there because that was absolute. So that's the relative and absolute. That's really important. Now we saw that error message before. We might see another type of error message frequently with the VLOOKUP. If I try a 3 there, it's going to tell me that it's evaluating to an out of bounds range, and that's because I said go and search in this table with 2 columns but return a value from the 3rd column. Obviously it says, hang on a minute, you only gave me 2 columns, I can't return a 3rd column value, so that's an error message. So if I went to search for B9, that would give me a different type of error, and it says it didn't find the 1125 in the VLOOKUP. So these error messages are really, really helpful because they can help you understand why your formula is not working. To read more even about them, I've got a whole article on my website all about how these error messages, what they mean and how we debug them. So that link's below, so go and check that one out, and that you can see the different types we've got. We saw the ref error there and the NA error, but there's lots of other ones as well, so that's worth checking out. Now, one other way we can deal with this relative and absolute problem is to actually just name ranges. So if you've never seen this before, this is a really useful tip worth learning. So I'm going to highlight that range of data and say, I want to give this this range of data a name because I refer to it frequently, a pain in the backside to type, and also then it stops me having to worry about absolute and relative references, because if I give it a name, it's always just going to be this range here that's that name. So we'll come to data and we'll go to name ranges, and let's just call this the condo table. We'll click done, and then now I can, instead of having to write G2 to H5, let's just redo this, and we'll say equals VLOOKUP the search key, and then I can just type condo, and it's, you see it gives me then condo table. Then it highlights it for me. We want to, and we're going to say false. And I can just drag that down now, and I don't need to worry about that relative and absolute references. So using these named ranges is a super handy skill, definitely worth learning, and makes all your formulas a lot neater. So that's just the named ranges. We can add more, we can edit them, that kind of stuff. We can give them new names. So that's named ranges. One other thing that's really important that you'll find yourself wanting to do frequently is once you've done some calculations and you've finished with these formulas and you know that you don't need them anymore, let's make sure we change these back into values, because if someone comes along to your spreadsheet later on and accidentally just kind of deletes these things, then any live formulas will just start to give you error messages. So it's a good idea once you've finished with the formulas and you know you won't need them again in the future to change them back to values. And we can do that by just highlighting them, Command-C or Control-C to copy, right-click, paste special, and paste values only. And that way now they're actual just hard-coded values again, pieces of data in my data set. Let me show you two other things before we finish. One is that we can first of all, we can open up that formula bar by just clicking there on that top bar. So we get the two-headed arrow, and I can just drag that down. Now at the moment that's pretty difficult to read. It's difficult to see how that formula is built. And so what I can do is I can say, okay, well I can see if I put a control there that it's actually two formulas effectively. And I can put another control there, and it starts to look a little bit like computer code then, because I can say I've got an opening bracket and a closing bracket, and then I've got my first function and then my second function to build that up. So I can put those, I have to hold control down when I do that to get spaces in my formulas. And what that lets me do is just make my formulas more readable, these long ones. So that's really useful to know. So for example, with that one there, when it was all on a single line like that a moment ago, I can actually put those control enters in to give them new lines and make it a lot more readable. So I can say, okay, well I can see that I have a query and this is my main query string, etc. And then finally, one last thing to show you is just when you're working with these formulas and you copy something from a website online or from a help forum or something, they're really complex to just look at and try and understand. For example, this one is not entirely obvious what's going on here, and so I'd advocate always peeling back all those layers. It's like that onion. It's going to make you cry, probably, like the onion, but peel back those layers and get at the very innermost function and then build it back up from there. So the innermost function in this one is this. So let's just copy that. So we'll put that here. I'm not going to explain what all this one does again, because it's what something we'll see at a later lecture. So first of all, we just had the 1 to 3. Then we had the indirect around it. So we'll just put that in quickly. I'm not going to go all the way to the very end here, but I'll just show you at least the start of this formula. Sometimes this happens. There's another error for you, a different type of error. And that's just the way this formula was constructed. I just need to, if I now put the next layer of the onion back in, it's fine, that error goes away. If I have an array formula, then it gives me the 1, 2, 3. So again, all we've done there is just started to build that formula back up by peeling back all the layers of the onion, crying our eyes out, and then getting to the very core of the function and building it back up. And I'd absolutely advocate doing that every single time, because you really don't understand the formula at all until you've done that step. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you in this lesson on day 1. That should kick us off nicely to get going into the advanced formulas challenges. We'll see formulas like this one here. Thanks for watching, folks, and see you next time.